Today we're going to be looking at the 5 keys to turning your health knowledge into cash and impact so that you could really transform the lives of people that you're called to serve. I had a heart attack when I was 12, and because of that, there was one man with a health message who learned how to package his knowledge into a book, into a program, and he sold it to my mother that I'm alive to tell the story today. And through his knowledge, I was able to lose 50 pounds in 3 months, never put it back on, and no longer pre-diabetic, no longer high cholesterol, no longer have the asthma that I had before. My life has been forever changed because of health educators just like you to be able to get your message out to others. So what we're going to be talking about is 5 keys that every successful health educator has that really makes a huge difference of whether or not you get traction. And these are 5 basically shifts that I had to make in my journey as becoming a professional speaker since I was 17. And there were things that I struggled the first 5 years because I didn't understand these reframes or these keys that I'm going to share with you. But once I started getting these keys, started unlocking greater opportunities for service, greater opportunities for impact, and has allowed our family business to earn over $500,000 in profit while educating people about health and how to transform their life in similar manners. So if you desire to make such a profound impact on the people's lives of other people's health, then this video is for you because these keys are going to be extremely helpful. And if you haven't noticed, it actually spells the word time. So I made it easy for you to remember these 5 keys. If you could remember how to spell time, then you're in good hands. Which brings us to the very first key. The first key is time. Now, what do I mean by time? See, for those first 5 years, I was overworked, overwhelmed, overcommitted, and underpaid. It was very difficult to really break through because I had so many different responsibilities, and I would say yes to many different things. I would speak, I was traveling, speaking, doing cooking classes, health lectures, seminars, and I had a lot of responsibilities. And a lot of my mentors, they kind of had this idea. It's like, why would we pay someone to do something when I could just do it myself for free? And what I found is that struggling health educators have a very much, can I get a different marker? Have very much a do-it-yourself mentality. And what I mean by that is that we are trying to do it when we're always starting from scratch, when we're always trying to figure things out with our own resources, our own skills, our own abilities, then we're going to be limited. And one thing that I watched that transformed my life, I was listening to a YouTube video that is talking about, thank you. It was a YouTube video, it was a podcast that was saying it's about time. And it was by Craig Rochelle. And one thing that he said, I will never forget, and my life will never be the same as a result. He said, great time management is not about doing more in less time. It's about doing less better. And the less that you do has a greater impact on the organization, on the mission, on moving the mission forward. And that paradigm shift was very different than what I was doing. My primary question is, how could I do more in less time? How could I do more in less? But what I realized is successful health educators are not doing more, they're doing less better. And the less that they do has a greater impact. So we might see, like Dr. Barbara O'Neill's out there, or we see some of the health educators on the podcast of the Diary of the CEO, and you see that these highly successful health educators, it seems like they're doing so many things. They have so much reach, so much impact, but the reality is they didn't start that way, and they have a team that is around them. In fact, Ephesians chapter 5, the scripture tells us, redeeming the time because the days are evil. And that word redeeming, when you look at the definition in the Strong's, the word redeeming means to buy back, to rescue from loss, to rescue from perishing, so to purchase back. So in other words, God is telling us that He wants us to buy back our time. So what I realized is that my struggling health educator mentors, they were always like, do it myself. And what I find is that struggling entrepreneurs would rather spend time and save money. Where I started mentoring over new mentors, And one thing that I kept asking, I'm like, well, why don't we just do this ourselves? And he kept responding, it's not cost effective. It'd be better to just have someone else pay for it, or pay someone else to do it who's a professional. You could do it faster. That way we could focus on what we do. And at first it was really jarring to my mind. Why would you cut a check when you could just do it yourself? And it's like, what good is that? And what I realized is, successful health educators value speed. And the same thing with your audience too. If you want to take your knowledge and monetize that through programs and books and products and speaking engagements, then understand you're not selling information, you're selling implementation, but it's speed of implementation. You know what's better than free? Fast. Fast is better than free every single time. People will pay for fast. So if you can help someone to get a result faster than them doing it themselves, or them trying to bump along or go to YouTube University or get their PhD in Google search, trying to recover from their disease or lose weight or reverse their illness, then people are willing to pay a premium when you could help them to get a result faster. So what I had to learn to do is not think about getting paid in terms of the information, just the knowledge I have. It's what is the result, not the task that I do, the hours of coaching, but the speed of which, what is the fastest path to healing? What, out of all the methodologies, out of all the ways that I can really change someone's life, which one is the fastest, the biggest win in the shortest amount of time? These things, this sense of urgency, working with a sense of urgency is huge. And I began to realize that my mentors would constantly cut a check to cut the line. They were frequently saying like, well, it's not cost effective for me to do it, so let's pay a professional to be able to handle that. For example, we had a deck out here, and our deck needed to be fixed. Now, back in the day, if our deck needed to be fixed, I'd be out there working on the deck, and several of us would be trying to build it from scratch. And then to save some money in different areas, we would, like, instead of getting tongue and groove from Home Depot, we'd buy a router, and we would make all the tongue and groove ourselves. We'd do a lot of things from scratch, thinking, well, we could save money by spending more time. We don't think about, like, anything that is free is going to cost you your time. So there's ways to build a business. There's free ways, but free is not free because it costs you time. And time is infinitely more valuable than money. Money spent can be made again, but time lost can never be gathered again. So there is a sense of urgency. There's a sense of there is a valuing difference of successful health educators versus what struggling health educators do. And until I made that shift, I was struggling constantly. Like, I was doing so much work, but I wasn't really getting compensated for that work. So just think about, part of the value you add to the marketplace is not how much knowledge you have. It's how many years that you can save someone from bumping along in pain and suffering, trying to figure it out themselves. So understand that's one of the ways that people perceive value. And so what we want to do is start learning, how could I not just spend time, but how can I invest my time in things today that will multiply my time tomorrow? There's a really powerful book, it's not a book, there's a powerful TED Talk on YouTube, and is by Roy Vaden, and he talks about like how to multiply your time. And he says time multipliers, they think in a different equation. They're like, they're giving ourselves the emotional permission today to work on things that will multiply our time tomorrow. So in other words, like, let's say bill pay. Bill pay may take an extra 30 minutes to set up an automatic payment, but once you have an automatic payment, that is going to save you, that can save you 30 minutes a month times 12, and it adds up times 5 years. And in the equation, when you factor in tomorrow, that's where you start to create far more leverage. Whereas if we're just thinking about today, I was having this conversation with a leader yesterday, that when we're focused on the urgency, what is the task that's just of today, and we're stressed out, and we plan our time, we spend our time on putting out fires. The role of a business owner is not to go from one fire to another and constantly putting out these crises. The things shift when we start focusing on, okay, what can I work on today that will multiply my time tomorrow? So how do we do that? Through systems. Sometimes it's through skills. Sometimes it's through technologies or new tools that we're able to use. When we're able to automate our decision making, like how can we do that? Sometimes even through a signature speech. Giving yourself the emotional permission to create a signature speech that is one sales message that you could deliver again and again, and all the hours of time that you save because you no longer have to think about, what am I going to teach? What am I going to share? I just got a message from Regine, a client of mine, and someone emailed her and said, hey, Regine, she wanted to join our accelerator program because she wanted to get into speaking. She wanted to know, she's been creating content online, but as far as public speaking in person, she doesn't know how that field works. She doesn't know how to find the gigs and what to say in front of them and how it's different than the content that she creates. So she got reached out. Someone's going to host an event with Dr. Barbara O'Neill's as a keynote speaker, and they want her. They were like, well, if I was ever going to be doing an event for women, I thought of you, and your message is so powerful to be able to share with them. And instantly, she already knows, Regine knows exactly what she's going to do because we worked with her to craft a signature speech that has been able to consistently get her $3,000 clients. Where before she was selling her course for $200, we not only raised her price by learning how to craft an irresistible offer, which is going to save you tons of time. Because if you're constantly starting from scratch, even with your protocols that you're helping people with, or the solutions you sell to the marketplace, if you're always creating a customized solution from the ground up for each new person who comes into your program, you're going to be exhausted. This is the smallest resource that everybody has equal amount of. The scarcest resource that we have. So anytime we're starting from scratch, even with our offer, it's going to cost you a fortune. So what we did with Regine is my team and I worked with her to craft an irresistible offer. One that takes the same amount of effort whether you sell to 10 people or if you sell 1,000 people. You want to ask yourself, if 1,000 people decided to join your program right now, would you be prepared for it? And if the answer is no, then let's reevaluate how you're structuring your offer to be able to factor in this time equation. You want to learn how to add value. You learn to get paid for results, not get paid for your time. Disconnect your income generation from your time by crafting an offer that you're able to deliver at no incremental increase of your time. This is the equation that shifts. So now you can start to, not now when I'm in my early 20s, I can start making money in my sleep. I'm able to disconnect my income generation. When my head hits the pillow and I wake up, I've had more money in the bank account than when I went to sleep. And by having this understanding, it's not about doing more and fully customizing for each person. It's about crafting, it's learning how to automate portions of our life, of our business, of our offering, the delivery and fulfillment. Just because you raise your price doesn't mean you need to raise your delivery and fulfillment and spend so much time with all your new clients. That's a common misunderstanding, and it's just not the case. The way you raise your price is you solve more valuable problems. And you help them to solve that problem faster than they would without them. You eliminate hassle. You simplify a complex problem. This is how value is interpreted in the marketplace. So time is one of the keys to turning your knowledge into cash, and community. You save people time and they're not going to want to stop plugging in and connecting with you, learning from you, and paying you frequently. So we're talking about learning how to multiply time. And another thing that, another key that unlocks greater levels of income, impact, and influence is technology. Oh, I know I said the T word. This can be a pretty intimidating word for a lot of health educators. But one thing that I learned, see, for me, I'm not technically inclined. I don't see myself as a technical person. That's not something, the computers, the technology and systems, that's not the stuff that just lights me up and gets me so excited. I like people. I enjoy interacting with individuals, and I like words and communication. I like expressing ideas that can transform lives. That's my area of expertise. But with the technology, one thing that I learned is the first 5 years I would avoid, there's a lot of learning curves when you're building a business or when you are when you're learning to serve people at scale, I realized that in order to create these automations, in order to be able to create it once and use it continually forever, to have systems that are delivering value for others without you, income producing assets, then I realized that successful health educators are not technophobic. They're not technophobic. What do I mean by that? They're not afraid of technology, because sometimes when we look at, maybe it's learning Canva, maybe it's learning new technology of a members area of there's courses. I know that when I've invested in coaching and courses and training, paid education, I'm like, wow, this interface is different, or it's out of sight, out of mind, right? And when we're living in this digital age, there's tools, there's for automating sales. I remember the first time that someone paid me and I wasn't like actively involved in that, and I got the notification. I was like, whoa, my automations work. It works. I was so excited. I'm like, this is real. I wasn't involved, but they just got paid on a subscription. So they're going to pay me continually for months in the future, maybe even years if I treat them well. And it was like something clicked in my mind. I'm like, this is the way to do it. Because before Trading Time for Money, I only got paid if I was physically involved, actively involved in doing the thing. Then it's like a light bulb turned on. But it's technology that allows you to do that. And the thing about technology is you don't necessarily have to learn every aspect of technology or tools or AI. You know, even with AI, a lot of health educators, they'll start with AI and then they'll see, they're like, it doesn't really give that good of quality, not realizing there's a skill that's called prompt engineering, that when you get better at prompting, you get better results. And sometimes we learn about AI and we're like it's got a bunch of mistakes, it doesn't have accurate information. Well, there's some AI tools that are a lot better with information, like Perplexity is going to be a lot more accurate because it's actually it does better research, or being able to do deep research. There's tools within the AI platforms that will solve certain problems, but just like any tools of the trade, by learning the tools, we could know if there's a hammer problem, if there's a nail problem, there's a hammer for that. If there's a screw problem, there's a drill for that. There's a driver for that. And if there's a hole problem, there's a drill for that. So it's by learning how to match the problem with the tool. But what I realize is that the tools and technology are tremendously, it's amazing what you're able to create with these things. So it's like, imagine you're building a deck, like the analogy I put out there. If we're going to build a deck and we had to hammer in a nail, would you want to hammer a nail with your palm of your hands? No, we never want to do that. That's why when we have a hammer, we're able to apply so much more force. With minimal effort, you get maximum impact. And what that looks like is the same thing in our business, is by being able to, let's say, create one signature speech that's minimal effort, you're able to maximize now have your entire content strategy for the whole rest of the year. And now you've got your short videos, you got microblogs you could take from that signature speech. You can turn that signature speech into other clips, small topics. You can repeat and enlarge on certain stories or hooks or angles for your lighthouse content, the content that you let your light shine in the marketplace so that your ideal clients can find you, like a lighthouse, so that you can be a light in the dark. This is content that you're giving out. So it's really by that one decision you have leverage. So a lot of business, I've realized, is about finding leverage. Anything that we lack in resources, maybe it's time, maybe it's money, maybe it's knowledge, anything we lack in resources, we could always make up in leverage. So as an entrepreneur, we want to be looking for leverage, learn to be leaders of leverage. And part of, like, the reality is, if you don't learn to leverage, if you don't master leverage, then leverage is going to master you. I mean, if you don't have leverage, that means that you're someone else's leverage. And it's not necessarily a bad thing to be someone else's leverage, but it's good to have leverage and be leveraged, because right now you're leveraging me. You're leveraging my experience, my knowledge, my background, and you're gaining insights from this, knowledge that maybe you didn't have before. or reminders. A lot of times it's not so much about being taught something new as it is being reminded to do what you've already known to do. And that's some of the stuff that we need the most. But if we're so afraid of technology, like, when we're going live and we're recording, sometimes technology fails. I can't tell you how many times I recorded a video only to find out it has no audio. I was like, that was an amazing video. That was awesome. I love it. And then there's no video. How many people have ever done something like that? Type me in the chat below. And that was me. But what I've learned to master that is just by understanding, like, well, that means the next time I record, it's going to be better. It means that God wants me, that was a good rehearsal, and the second time is just going to be a bigger blessing and a more impactful way. And each time that I've re-recorded, they have been better. So sometimes it's about mastering our emotions and our expectations. But it's like when technology is not going the way you expected, are you going to smash your computer? Are you going to get upset? You're going to toss your hands up and storm out of the room? I mean, maybe you don't do that so physically, but we do that emotionally, mentally. How we handle technology or new tools is going to largely affect your ability to multiply your impact and income as a health educator. Because in this age, the faster you learn, the more you earn. And it's really the speed of education by being able to implement the principles that we share. This is where it is. So learning to leverage AI to help you to learn faster. A lot of people are like, I don't like AI because I want to learn the skill. Well, what if you use AI to learn the skill faster? You can ask questions that you otherwise wouldn't. Something that might take a Google search you like 15 to 50 minutes researching, you can find out in 5 minutes talking to AI about why things work the way they do. And you can explore your curiosity and get some insights on gaining new skills that you otherwise wouldn't have before. It's not something to replace. AI is not going to replace anyone. People who leverage AI are going to replace people who are not using AI to multiply their productivity, to multiply their impact, to their message, to be able to take the skills you already have and do them faster. So it's just whatever technology. Are you afraid of the new advancements? Do you see social media? Do you see a new update and you're like, oh, they're trying to attack us. They're out to get us. They're trying to steal our information and make our lives bad. It's like when you look at technology, what are the emotions that come to your mind? Because if you have these deep-rooted fears, I would call them wealth wounds, because time and time again, technology, wealth follows technology. And if you have your first response to technology is fear of the unknown and an expectation of lack and this standoffish or overwhelm or dread, if you think it's like a necessary evil, you're going to struggle as a health educator. I mean, just facts. I remember sitting in the classroom and I was teaching my students day in, day out, every day. And I was just thinking, man, there's like 10 people in this room and I couldn't help but to imagine, I've tasted what technology could do. And I know that even with a fraction of the time, the money, the resources, the manpower, if I just put a fraction of this energy into leveraging technology to create videos, to record messages and share them, then I would be able to reach thousands of more people than just what I was doing here. And I just looked at my YouTube channel statistics. One of my YouTube channels just reached over 100,000 views. I mean, that's pretty special to me, because if you think about, that's 100,000 people that paid attention and decided that they wanted to hear, show up, learn, who said like, hey, my precious time is worth learning what you have to share. And would I have ever reached 100,000 people sitting in the classroom? No, not in a lifetime. But it's through technology. I could record a video once and they're blessing people's lives day in and day out. I still get comments from videos I posted 10 years ago of people's lives who are being transformed. Now before that, I would used to get on the phone or on a video and I'd have to coach them one-on-one to go through the same lessons I would gladly share with people. Now we could do it one-to-many. And technology immortalizes your knowledge, your insight, your legacy, your impact, which is powerful. So what I learned is that we don't want to be allergic to technology. We want to learn how to befriend technology, learn how to learn new tools faster, and Stop assuming that because you've never done something, you're going to be bad at it, or that it's going to be hard, or that it's going to be a struggle. Because I was talking to a team member of mine, and then Kathy and I were speaking together, and there was this new tool that we had invested in so that her life could be easier, so she could get, she could be able to do more with less. And I noticed there's some hesitation. She kept saying like, well, I've never used that before. And whenever she had this problem, I'm like, well, have you used the tool yet? And the new tool, and she's like, no, I haven't done that. It's new. And the meaning that she was attaching is that it's going to be hard. I'm going to be bad at it. It's going to take a long time. And it's easy to think about how much time it costs to learn a new tool, but in reality, what's good, if you want to master technology, think about how much time it's going to cost by not getting access to the tool, by staying where you are. Like right now, Kathy, her Mac, she had a Mac for quite a while, her PC, it broke. And so yesterday, she bought a new Windows PC. So now she's got a new laptop, it's going to be coming in today. And it's easy to think, we're like, okay, well now I'm going to learn a new system. And it could be like overwhelming to think about learning something new if we allow it to, or we could think of, well, how much time is wasted by the computer shutting off, not turning on, not working, and all the time opportunity lost by staying with the broken tools that are not adequate to actually get the job done, that are not reliable on when you need it most. So it's like a shift of where's the cost? Because it's going to cost you either way. One's going to cost you with frustration and no results. One's going to cost you an investment of time that will multiply your results and your usefulness. So I was having this conversation with Kathy a few months ago, and she was just thinking that she's not going to be good at it. And she's like, I've never done it before. I'm like, what does that mean to you? That means I won't be bad. That means it's going to be hard. I'm like, well, what if it's because you've never done it before that you're going to be good, that it's going to be easy and fun, fast, it's going to be enjoyable? She's like, what? How could you possibly be good at something that you've never done before? Or like, how could it do well? That doesn't make any sense. And I asked her, I said, has there ever been a time in your past that you knew you were going to be good at it, even though you've never done it before? And she was thinking, and she thought, and then a light bulb turned on. She got a big smile on her face. She's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, so you thought of something. Tell me, what was a time you knew you were going to be good at it, but you've never done it before? She said, I knew when I was going to get married that I was going to be a good wife, even though I've never been a wife before. And I said, were you a good wife? She's like, yeah, I had a happy marriage for 40 years, and it was a blessing. And she's like, yeah, I was. And I was like, exactly. The same belief that you put into, the meaning you attach to doing something new, that you're going to be a good wife, just associate the same meaning to learning this new tool. I believe it was Loom, like a recording software. So just imagine when you're learning Loom on how to record your screen, just imagine that you're going to be good at it because you've never done it before, even though. And she's like, well, I could do that. And then she did. And after that, she stopped procrastinating the tool. She started using it, and now she could turn it on within seconds, no problem. And sure enough, it was a lot easier than what the mind was anticipating. I like how Alex Hormozy said it. He was saying that it took me 3 years. I think he said it took me 3 years to build a website for my business. And he said, but in reality, it was more like 3 years of worrying and stress and thinking about how hard it's going to be to build a website for my business. And when I actually sat down to do it, it was more like 3 hours. And within 3 hours, I had a website up and down and up and ready, and it was able to be used. It didn't take 3 years. It was 3 years of stressing out about how hard it would be. It was actually just 3 hours of just sitting down and getting it done. So when we're talking about the key to unlock greater impact, income, and influence in your health education business is learning how to leverage technology, become a friend of it. And if you've been away from social media, like go create an account. There are billions of people on Facebook that are ready and eager to pay you for your knowledge. The thing is, they just don't know that you exist yet. They want to pay you as their mentor to guide them on this path of health transformation, but without the technology, they'll never know you exist. So let's use the technology to get your message to the masses. Now, what about the third key for turning your health knowledge into cash? It is I, which stands for influence. Influence. Now, why are we talking about influence? Because there's no such thing as a self-made success. There's only a team-made success. It's by learning how to influence others, build relationships. It's the connections. It's really starting to build that dream team. And I would encourage you too. I had a mentor of mine who said, when you're building your business, write down who is the championship team that you want to have around you. Surround yourself with people who love doing what you hate, who play at the things that you find just grueling and you don't enjoy. And so back in 2018, I went through this exercise. I'm like, well, that's kind of weird. I don't know who these people are, where they'll come from, or how that's going to happen. But I invested in a mentor, and I'm like, look, I paid a pretty penny for this, and I'm going to get my money's worth. I'm going to apply what he taught me. So I wrote it down. I started to write down what are the skills that I want to surround myself with, who are the teams, the personalities, the people, and piece by piece, that became my prayer list. Make that dream team your prayer list. And as I started praying over that, then God started to surround people in my life, in my work, that are exactly what I was praying for, what I mapped out several years ago. And within just a few years, these people started to be coming into place, and I'm so grateful to have them. Where it's a blessing. Shanicia helps me to schedule YouTube content. I like recording the videos. I don't like scheduling them. Shanicia loves scheduling them. I don't know what goes on in her mind where she's just like, oh yeah, this goes to that platform and that platform, and she takes the videos and makes sure they go everywhere. I love that she loves that, but I don't. And then when it comes to like some of the technology or the website, the web design, the sales funnels, the colors, like my mind isn't the most artistic in nature. For like color schemes and branding and images and placement and the design. But Kamran's mind, he's helping me with the switching and the video. And when you see slides, Kamran's really helping with those. But Kamran's mind has an eye for design. He likes the colors and he likes to see the placement and the shapes, and his mind is geared that way. And I'm like, that is awesome, because that's the stuff I don't like. But Kamran doesn't like the teaching and educating and working with a lot of the people and expressing those things. Like those are different interests, which works. And so what I've been learning to do, where like Kathy, her mind too is she thinks in a world of checklists, of schedules, of dates and times and projects and what things need to take place. Her mind naturally works backwards to reverse engineer a goal to see what needs to take place in order for that to happen. She's a genius when it comes to planning and prioritizing people, processes, projects. So she's a project manager and she's really good at it. And that's the stuff about galvanizing projects and leading teams. That's not stuff that that light me up. I've learned to do it, but it's not something that I enjoy doing. But what I've realized is that sometimes people look at me and it's like, I've been blessed to have a team of 7, and people are like, well, you could do these things because you got a team. Like, I didn't start with a team. I didn't come out of my mother's womb surrounded by an entourage of people who want to help and support and get the message out to others. In fact, I thought for many years that I was like, why would anybody in their right mind want to help me with my videos or getting my message out? I thought because I didn't want to do these things that no one on planet Earth would want to do them. And I was like, who would be interested in helping me? Like, that seems weird. But sure enough, there were tons of people over the years who've been interested, who have been engaged actively a part in lending their resources. So what I realized is we want to learn to form strategic partnerships, learn to connect with other people. I found that there's even mentors that you can invest in a mentorship, and you're able to, that is a leverage, that is an influence, that's a relationships. You know, most people are out here talking about ROI, and ROI stands for what? Return on investment, right? There's a lot of entrepreneurs understand, well, it's like, okay, what is going to be the ROI of my time, return on investment of my time? If I'm going to put in 5 hours learning this, then I better get 50 hours back throughout the course of maybe a year or 5 years or something. And if I'm going to invest in a mentorship program, then what is going to be return on investment? And so ROI is commonly heard, but you know what almost nobody is talking about, ROR. That's where the power is. ROI, what is that? That's return on relationships. Return on relationships. Now, what do I mean by that? You cannot underestimate the power of one relationship. One call can change it all. One person, one connection, one conversation can really open a wide door of people, even when you're creating content. That's why I absolutely love content. You don't need a large audience to make a large amount of money online. Contrary to popular belief, a lot of times people have a big audience, but they don't know how to monetize that knowledge. But a lot of times, even with a small audience and the right audience, people who want to solve your problem, people who have deep pockets, who are willing to pay to have them solve. Like, even if you're speaking, you're doing an interview, and there's one person in the audience or one person who views it, that one person might be the nephew of a event planner of an organization of 3,000 people. And when they hear about your message, that person will invite you to go speak to that event that could radically transform your life. It's the relationships, the mentorships that I have prioritized that have really opened me up to possibilities that I wouldn't have had before. And so this is really powerful. And there's ways that you can invest in programs. Like, I remember I was in Washington, D.C., and I was working at Vote for Health. There's this health organization that was doing health seminars, health lectures, fairs over in Capitol Hill. And I realized that this ministry had hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of dollars. They just had a lot of resources, and they had speed. If they wanted to do something, they could just, like, they wanted to buy a camera to go interview people on the streets. So they went to Amazon, bought these $3,000 cameras. There's like 5 of them. And within 2 days, we had cameras, and I was out there interviewing people on the streets for what we were doing. And I remember, in contrast, for me, struggling as a health educator, I remember creating a GoFundMe to try to save up $1,000 to buy my first DSLR. And it took me like 7-8 months to raise that money. And then they were able to have it within from the thought to the purchase, it was minutes. And I'm like, wow. So one day I was able to be in the back of the truck, or in the passenger side of the truck, alone with the director of this organization. And I was like, help me understand, how is it that you guys are in ministry? How do you have so much resources where most of the other health educators I know, they're broke? It's like, what's the difference? What's going on? And he took me, we were in Capitol Hill. He drove a little bit further out, just like a few blocks. He's like, you see that house? Yeah, that's where I grew up. I grew up from a family of politicians. My family was wealthy. So he mentioned that in the Bible, there are biblical financial principles. When you understand those financial principles, money is a result. When you disregard them or don't understand, then lack of finances is a result too. I was like, what? And I had no idea. I just thought there was no rhyme or reason. But when you actually look up the word poverty in the scriptures, and in Proverbs especially, you will see there is a lot of warnings against the peril of poverty that many people do not express. And the Bible gives very clear reasons why people stay poor. And so there's warnings about the practices that produce poverty. So I had to go search out. And then and he said that he used to own a successful construction business, multi-million-dollar business, and he shared that all the principles you learn in business are 100% transferable to ministry and serving other people. I was like, wow, that's powerful. And that gave me really a lot of like the strength and courage to continue to pursue business and learn those skills. And then like for instance, skills about influence, public speaking, building a team, organization, casting a vision, all those skills are required they really multiply your impact and income, your ability to leverage. And he drove me another block or two to this country club. And at this country club, he said, you see this country club? My parents paid $250,000 a year to be a part of this membership. I was like, $250,000? That's the price of a house. Why would anybody pay $250,000 not once, but every year to be a part of something like this? And he told me something I'll never forget. He said, Enoch, wealthy people value relationships more than money. And he said that one relationship, when you invest in this this community, this membership, this association, you get access to a caliber of people who you wouldn't otherwise have access to. People who are constantly bombarded by the news or media or different places. When they're here, they kind of let their hair down. They're just like colleagues, peers, or people here. They're not constantly being asked things, but that one relationship may end up in a $5 million deal. So yeah, you put $250,000 in and you get $5 million back. Like, was that an expense or an investment? That was an investment. And I began to, like, at first, that started shifting my mind, planting seeds. Little did I know that I'd end up spending $55,000 to be a part of a mastermind that truly has really opened up the world of possibilities. I remember being in the mastermind and people are like, look, anyone who's willing to invest $55,000 to be in this room, I want to meet that person, because that's a type of person that is living life, playing life at a different level, who's working in their business and using their business at a different level. And I want to know that person. Doesn't matter the background or wherever, it's just like there's this common ground. And I began to realize, I'm like, wow, this room is filled with people that are different than what we usually interact with, online or offline. So there's a lot of value in learning how to cut a check for access to mentors, access to tools, and access to knowledge that is going to help accelerate the journey. Because one idea can be the difference between working 5 years with little to no pay or being able to get the same results within 5 days or 5 weeks in a much shorter time period. So the I in time, the third key to turning your health knowledge into cash is influence. Is by learning how to be a steward of our influence and be very intentional. Find creative ways to continue to add value to people, because the people in your corner will show up for you when you have showed up for them. And it's a beautiful law of imparting, that give and it shall be given unto you. People want to help. And so the fourth thing that we're talking about is the M is money. Now, what do I mean by money? James Malinchak, he's a millionaire mentor of mine. I learned a lot about public speaking from him. He's a brilliant mind when it comes to speaking. One thing he said is that there's no such thing as a money problem. There's only a decision problem. And all the money that we have comes down to really the decisions that we make. The decisions of what we're going to focus on. Like now, you're choosing to show up. You're here to learn. You're here to earn. You're here to figure out how to change your financial situation. Other people stay on the struggle bus. They're overwhelmed, overcommitted, constantly overworked, and underpaid. And it's the decisions that we make. When someone invites us to go to an event and we ask, like, okay, does this event align with the vision and direction that I'm seeking to go in life? And then if it doesn't, we say, yes, I will go to the event. Yes, I will attend that meeting. And then we have a money problem. It's not a money problem. It's a decision problem. It's a decision of what are we spending on? A lot of times people will spend their money on dumb stuff, on food they can't afford, clothing they can't buy, trips and travel expenses that just adds up. There's expenses to these things. But then when it comes to investing in your education, investing in your knowledge, or learning high-income skills that are going to pay your bills, then it's like, oh, I can't afford coaching. I can't afford the course. I can't afford the education. So instead, I'm going to spend it in entertainment. And that's what really shifted for me. One thing I also learned from, actually, it's in my book, I Want to Mentor, Now What Do I Do? When I publish this book, there's a quote in here where I talk about poor people waste their time in education, where successful people, they invest their time in education. And I had a health educator who's a director of this health outpost. He messaged me and said, thank you so much for writing this book. I think about it so often. Every time I pull up my phone and I start scrolling, I remember that quote that you said, poor people waste their time in entertainment and successful people invest their time in education. And then when I'm scrolling aimlessly through social media, he's like, hey, I hear your voice saying like, hey, you are choosing poverty over riches right now. And I was like, that's so good. I'm glad to be able to help you to shift your perspective, because we constantly pay for distractions. We pay for so many distractions that do not further your mission, your God-given assignment to get your message to more people, to serve clients, to be able to craft an offer, to craft your signature speech, to express content that's going to outlive you. It's going to outwork you. I mean, I got content still working for me while I'm spending time with my family. While I'm out there playing tennis on a Sunday evening, there's content that's going in the marketplace that people are able to watch, to listen, and I'm able to wake up with new Facebook friend requests of qualified leads that are interested in building their health education business. Are coming to my business asking me if they could work with me and how they could work with me on Next Level, because I've got systems and content and assets. I've invested money to learn skills. I've invested my time to set up these systems that are automatically working so that I don't have to be 24/7. They can be. Does that make sense? How many of you want to have a 24/7 assets that are working to serve your people, to spread your message, to change lives, no matter what you do or who you spend your time with? This is where it's not just possible, it's very practical. I think it's one of the most ethical and the most important thing that we can do. I believe I had a burden, I had a sense of duty to be able to set up these systems, because I knew that every day that goes by that these systems were not in place, I'm just digging a deeper and deeper grave of stress, overwhelm, overwork. It's not helping my health. It's not helping other people's health. So by learning to set up these systems, by learning to make decisions differently about money, this is where nothing changes if nothing changes. So there comes a point in every health educator's life where we say, not another month, not another week, not another day, not another hour. Now is the time. It's time to change the way that I have been prioritizing my time and spending my money. Another major shift that I got in relation to money is that one of the reasons why employees feel like everything is so expensive and they can't afford it is because employees spend money. I mean, they make money from their time, right? And time is the stuff that life is made out of. And how you spend your time is how you spend your life. How you waste your time is how you waste your life. So if you're trading time for money, like an employee, then employees feel like everything is so expensive because it's going to cost them their life. So let's say if something costs $10,000, right? If they're going to invest $10,000 into their business, as an employee, they're thinking, okay, how many years, how many days, how many hours, how many months of my life is it going to cost me in order to say yes to that? So if, let's say an employee is making, let's say it's making like $3,000 a month, then saying, well, how many months is that going to cost? That's going to cost roughly like 4 months. 4 months, almost half a year of my life is going to go into spending or paying for this. So to an employee, everything sounds expensive because they're paying from their life. So it is. But entrepreneurs, they think about health educators. They don't count expenses the same way, and we're able to pay for things more because one thing that I learned from Jimmy Smith, he's 80 years old. He made over $90 million in his health education business, and one of the lessons that I learned in my early 20s that just shifted everything is Jimmy Smith, after making $90 million, he said, stop counting your expenses in dollars and learn to count your expenses in sales. So in other words, instead of thinking, well, how much money does it cost for me to say yes to the software, to this coaching program, to this business investment, think, how many sales do I need to make in order to pay for this? So in other words, like Myron Golden mentioned that educators, entrepreneurs, we pay for things out of our creativity. There's the reason why we can afford these investments and we see an ROI is because while employees pay with their life or their time, we pay out of creativity. As an educator, what do I mean by that? Your creativity, is this limited or is your creativity unlimited? Let me know in the chat. Is it limited? Is there a limit to your creativity? Is there like only this scarce resource? Type unlimited in the chat if you see it's unlimited. Exactly. So how do you use your creativity? You use it to solve problems. You use it to craft offers. You use your creativity to create content. You use your creativity to, like even now, I'm using my creativity to create this framework of time, 5 keys to turn your knowledge into cash. It's a valuable problem to solve. I'm using creativity to explain these concepts in my journey, in my story about how I've helped others. You're using your creativity to be able to borrow other people's stories. I was on a consultation call this week and someone's like, well, I feel like I don't have a story. I've learned about health and I love health and I've been teaching people about detoxes, but I haven't really got off the ground. And I know that I need to share the stories. And she's just like, I don't know if I have a good enough story. And I was saying, like, you don't need to have your own story in order to radically transform lives until you develop a testimony. Use the testimony of others. You can borrow a story as you build your story. Leverage other people's stories. If you're teaching principles at work, then there's other people in the marketplace that have been able to apply the similar principles you teach and they've been able to get a result. Go tell their stories. Be a collector of other people's stories. Instead of thinking of yourself as a content creator, think of yourself as a content curator, where you're curating ideas. You're curating credible statements from Nobel Prize winning scientists and researchers and doctors who have the credibility. Go borrow their credibility to build your credibility. Now, how many of you feel like that's a creative solution? Type creative in the chat if you're like, oh, that's creative. Well, it blew her mind. Just one consultation, she was able to realize, wow, there's an unlimited number of stories that I could use to sell my products, programs, and transform people's lives by being able to be a curator of other people's content. And now I brought it to your awareness, you're gonna notice. I want you to pay attention when you're looking at content on YouTube, social media, wherever. You're gonna notice some of the most viral videos that exist is people curating other clips or other people's videos, and you could do it. There's fair use, it's legal. For you to be able to comment on what other people have said and speak. News reporters do this all the time. That's why in my other best-selling book on high-ticket health coaching, I talk about this reporter approach, where you could be a reporter of other people's knowledge, expertise, and experience. So as a reporter, there's no limit to the content you're able to have and the credibility you're able to develop. And so what am I saying? As an educator, you get paid out of your creativity. And when you use your creativity to craft an offer, to make an offer, make a sale, do you have less creativity or more creativity? Do you have the same amount of creativity that you started with? Yeah, you don't lose creativity. When you pay out of your time, your life, your energy, the reason why employees get so burnt out in life and work is because they're paying for all their expenses out of their time, out of their life. It's sucking the vital force out of life, and it's hard. Whereas as an educator, there's no limit to the offers you are able to make, the price that you're able to choose, and how you're able to solve problems for people. So you get paid out of your creativity. And that's why a $10,000, let's say you need to buy a van. And if you're gonna buy a van, let's say it's like $20,000 van, and let's say you have let's say it's $21,000 van and you have a $3,000 coaching program. You're no longer thinking, okay, I gotta come up with $21,000. Oh, how am I gonna do this? You're thinking, oh, how many sales do I need to make in order to pay for the van? 7 sales at $3,000 is $21,000. Okay, so no longer is it $21,000. The van is 7 sales. Now, do you think I could find 7 people out of 8 billion people on planet Earth who would be interested in saying yes to transforming their health? I mean, there are people who are charging far more, who are making way more money than you are, and who know way less knowledge than you do about your health topic, but they're monetizing their knowledge because they're taking action. They're implementing these ideas that I'm sharing with you. So no longer is it $21,000, it is 7 sales. Does 7 sales sound easier to do than 21,000? In fact, this is exactly what my client, Dr. Kendra Lee, did. She needed a new van, and her van, something happened to it. It either broke, got in a wreck, or I don't remember what happened, but she was in great need of a new vehicle. So what did she do? She's not trying to figure out how to get the money from her savings, her 401k, or to work how many hours ago paid off. She's like, she take the principles that she's learning from me, and she's like, well, let me make an offer. And what is an offer that I can go make? And so she made an offer to the government and created an educational program. And she delivered that program, and she got the tens of thousands of dollars to be able to invest in a van, and she bought it. So it wasn't all that money. It was one sale. One sale, one offer was able to pay for the van. And she paid out of her creativity. You see how, because creativity is endless, then it doesn't feel like everything is so expensive. When I wanted to buy, I wanted to invest in a program of software that's able to take my AI, the AI prompts and the skills. When I'm giving these tools to my students, they're able to really accelerate their life, where instead of trying to come up with all this stuff on their own, I teach them how they could leverage AI to speed up the process in ways that they would have never thought. Like Dr. Kendra Lee, she said she has saved tens of hours each week on working with her clients using the principles I taught her with AI, and making it so much easier to just get some of the rough draft or the initial analysis of some of her assessments that she's giving, comprehensive deep dives for people, protocols that she's giving for people. She's saving tens of hours each week applying these principles I shared with her. And she's still using her expertise, her creativity, her knowledge, what she knows, and she's course correcting, but she just AI writes the rough draft. We're no longer she's starting from scratch, which is what we talked about for time, right? Struggling health educators start from scratch on almost everything. In fact, they pride themselves like, oh, I built this from scratch. I cooked it from scratch. I made it from scratch. I did all this work from scratch. And because we have the do-it-yourself mentality, as long as I had that mentality, everything felt like it would take way more time. So I was overworked, overcommitted, and underpaid. Whereas Dr. Kendra Lee was learning how to do this much faster. Now, we're talking about money because as an educator, you get paid out of your creativity. It's limitless. So everything doesn't feel so expensive. By investing in a program, you're just thinking, okay, how many sales? Let's say the coaching programs, I have a $10,000 accelerator program. The reason why people pay that is because, with Regine, she sees here that she's like, okay, well, how many sales do I need to make in order to get that money back? Well, if it's $10,000 to join, and I'm going to have a $3,000 coaching program, well, all I got to do is create 4 sales in order to get that money back. And sure enough, I believe she's either on her 3rd sale or she's on her 4th sale, but she's already more than got the value. She said from day 2 of joining our program, she's like, I already got the value that I came into this program for, and I'm on the 2nd day, y'all. And she's like, each day she's just had one breakthrough after another that she was not having before. And before joining our program, she was struggling. Her content was dipping. Her sales were dipping. She was just not sure how to get out of this rut that she was in and how to go to the next level. She's having a hard time selling her $200 courses. So I was like, well, let's raise your price 15x. And she's like, 15x? I've never done that before. And it was concerning, but I showed her I helped coach her through to overcome those fears, those wealth wounds that held her back. Then she was unleashed upon the world to do world good. And people started to join and they buy. We created the offer, signature speech. We helped her with the process, know exactly what to say over the phone. And she was able to do it, and people paid her. And now she's getting booked on big stages to be able to share on her health message. She already knows what she's going to say because she used her time wisely to build the speech one time, and she's able to share that to whatever size audience that is. So what we're talking about is learning how to count expenses, not in dollars, but in sales. How many sales does it need to make in order to pay for that investment? So when I wanted to create a software that's able to have AI agents, so you don't have to learn prompting and the stuff that, the skills required to get good results from AI, you don't have to learn those. I could put it in there already for you. So I believe it was $1,000 in initial investment. I was thinking, okay, well, if I want to buy this $1,000 program, what do I need to do? I don't need to pay for my life and time, and just let me go create an offer. Let me go create a program that will pay for what I desire to buy. So I'm like, all right, well, let me put together a new program, Skills Unlimited. Skills Unlimited is going to have the AI studio. It's going to have a Netflix for entrepreneurs. So let me create this $2,000 program, and just one sale of that is going to more than enough cover the expenses for the programmer development, the software, and all the back-end team that I use to be able to run our AI studio and our AI agents. So instead of thinking, oh, $1,000 is expensive, just like, well, it's not expensive, it's half of a sale. One sale is going to cover that for 2 years. Okay, well, do you think out of however long I'm going to have this program that I'm not going to get 2 sales by the results of creating this? Is absolutely. And has it saved my clients time? Yes. Has it made it easier? Absolutely. Did Reginae use it to build her signature speech? Yes. Her offer? Yes. And so it's well worth it. And I want you to see that there's no such thing as a money problem, only a decision problem. And so high-income health educators look at money differently, and we have to change. I had to change the way that I looked at money in order to actually have more of it. And there's a financial law. One of the financial principles is what's called the law of faith, that it states that your bank account is a direct reflection of your beliefs about money. You'll never make more than whatever you think is a lot of money. So the more that we work on our beliefs and our emotions about finances, that's going to make a huge difference about knowing how to break through. Now, the fifth key, turning your health knowledge into cash, is E, which stands for emotion. Why emotion? Because really, regardless of what anybody says, this is a very emotional game. It's a game of emotional mastery, and there's an emotional fitness that's required, because we've got to learn how to discipline our disappointments. A lot of times people are even sales. If you're going to monetize your knowledge, you got to learn how to sell well. And people buy for one reason only. It's because they feel like it. One of the reasons why a lot of health educators have a hard time monetizing their knowledge is because when they open their mouth, it's mostly logic that is coming out. It's logical reasons to follow your advice. But people don't buy because of knowledge, logic. They buy because of emotion. And they buy because of emotion, they justify with logic. So what do I mean? Now, when someone joins, they're going to, if you're selling a weight loss program, for instance, then the emotions is the emotion of certainty or exclusivity. When you have a group of people that are coming together, that's what they're going to buy for. And in fact, there's an acronym that's called DOSE. And when you understand DOSE, this helps to know exactly what emotions to be able to create in your audience that will help people to buy more. One is dopamine. Dopamine. People buy because of dopamine. So one of the ways you do that is novelty. Novelty. Something new is going to create dopamine in their mind. It's a chemical that creates the emotion. And dopamine is created by novelty. So in other words, when your offer is new, what's better than you don't want to have a better detox or a better cleanse or a better weight loss program. You want to have an entirely different new way to do it. One proprietary process, one new way that you're able to recommend to people. Like when Dr. Kendra Lee came here, she had a lot of methodologies, a lot of ways she could help people, from RBTI to detoxing, through 8 laws of health, which includes nutrition and a variety of different things. I'm like, let's pick one. And she's like, okay, we're going to do detox juicing. All right, well, that is going to be your new way. And by introducing new concepts, even now, as I'm sharing with you, I'm creating dopamine in your mind, because time, technology, influence, money, these aren't new things, are they? No. But anything can be taught in a new or unique manner. And one of the fastest ways for you to create dopamine in other people's mind is share your story with the principal, your experience, your message, how you learned it, what your life was like before knowing it, and what your life was like after learning it. In each one of these, I'm telling you stories with each of these that help you to connect. Like my story about Kathy being able to overcome the hesitation with technology, is that there's not another person on planet Earth that's going to be able to share that story unless they learned it from me. So that is new. It's something unique. It's it's a timeless truth, but it is a new story, so it creates dopamine. And this is going to increase people's desire to buy it. And then the other one is O. O stands for oxytocin. And oxytocin is known as the love hormone, the connection hormone. Connection with your audience is so vital because before people buy your products or your programs, they buy your personality. They buy your personality first. It is the connection that the perceived relationship they have with you that keeps clients for life, where they're not just transactional, here today, gone tomorrow, but it is by telling stories, by creating community, by even when I'm sharing stories with other people's experience, others health educators who are in a similar situation as you, but they've been able to break through, that creates connection. When you tell stories that your audience can connect with whoever the main person is of the story, maybe it's a success story of your student, maybe it's your journey, maybe it's you're borrowing a story, but whoever you're sharing, you want to make sure your audience is able to connect with them. And that could be you. And when you have that connection, they're going to prefer you as opposed to other people. I get asked the question a lot of times is why would anyone buy from me? There's already a lot of health educators. There's a lot of people out there teaching similar stuff. Why would they pay me? It's because there's nobody out there speaking like you are. There's no one who has your heart, that has your personality. People are like, oh, I got an accent. It's because of your accent they will choose you, because you'll be able to hold people's attention better because they got to listen in. And everybody knows that if someone has an accent and they've learned multiple languages, they got to be a brilliant mind. It's not dumb people who know second, third, fourth languages. So, I mean, you have so many, and you're more interesting to listen to. So there's so many benefits of anything that you have that's about you. The reason why you think people won't listen to you is the very reason why they will. And yeah, we got in the comments, I love accents. People love listening to those. So oxytocin is by creating connection, not just logical information about when to wake up, what kind of exercises to do, what herbs to make, and why it works and the scientific research behind it. That logical stuff doesn't help you monetize your knowledge as much as helping someone believe that you understand them, that you've been where they are, or you have helped people who are where they are, and you could help them to go the other way, to get where they want to go. The next one is serotonin. Serotonin. And serotonin is often created when there's a feeling of significance or exclusivity or a feeling of importance. So one way that you could do this is, well, partly by sharing like new or framing research in a new way where you're like, look, what I'm sharing with you, if some people are, if traditional health advice is contrary to what you teach or believe, then you could share like, look, what I'm sharing with you about reversing diabetes is what hardly anybody knows about. Most people are not teaching it, and it works. And even by showing that you have this exclusive knowledge, this insight, where instead of saying, well, because mainstream medical advice says one way, that's why people won't buy, make that the reason why they will, because now you have this inner insight, this hidden wisdom that you are revealing secrets. You're pulling back the curtains of what's helping many people. And if you got enough stories that you're sharing of people who actually have worked through, you're able to overcome the objection. The question, does it work? One of the easiest ways to overcome that is just tell stories of people who applied the principles you teach and it worked for them. Never are they going to be asking, oh, does it work? My doctor said this. I don't think this is effective. There's experiences. When you have load your presentation with stories, people are like, yeah, it works. So serotonin is created when they have this feeling of exclusivity or significance, like they learned something impactful, they're a part of a community that is doing something major. Like I am on a mission to empower a movement of holistic health educators who are able to get your message to the masses so you can transform the lives, save the lives of the people you're called to serve. We have a mission here. Doesn't that feel important? Doesn't it feel good to know that by you sharing your message, you're saving lives and impacting other people? Type yes in the chat if that you see that you have a significant mission and a message that matters. And I don't want you to be a best kept secret. I want your message to go to the people you're called to serve. There is purpose here so that you can create serotonin that way. And then the last one is endorphins. Endorphins are often created through laughter, through humor, through just having fun. You know, a lot of times people try to, health educators like, I gotta be this like fancy health professional. I gotta look professional, gotta look polished, have the perfect production, perfect camera, best quality. And we put all these different excuses that hold us back. But in reality, people would rather follow a leader that's always real than a leader that's always right. So even being your fun, goofy self is going to connect with people more than being a perfect, polished professional that is so far distant from the people you want to serve. But put personality in your messages. Have fun. Enjoy yourself. Share some humor. And as you're able to share with humor, humor makes you more likable. Humor makes you more preferable. Humor allows us to connect at levels and put people's guards down. There's a lot of distrust. There's a lot of people on edge on the internet or on online, offline. But when you're able to have humor and express yourself openly, your goofy, authentic self, exactly who you are, that makes such a big difference. One of the reasons why people connect with me is because I am the same way a person that I am on camera as I am off camera. And when you are trying to be this high energy or this excited or something different on camera than what you actually are, then what it creates is this disconnect, and it's like this clash in your internally, and it shows up on camera as awkward. But like I have been far more free with like letting my humor come out in my videos, and people like it. They remember that, and it allows your teaching points, your learning lessons to be deeper embedded, because humor and information equals long-term memory, and it's where you could really influence people for good and for God and for the betterment of the world. So by learning how to inject or produce, give them a dose of joy, give them a dose of emotion. It's an easy acronym to remember, but when you're able to create content that elicits an emotional response, that elicits an emotional mission or something bigger than just your prices, bigger than, like, instead of competing on prices, learn how to speak with emotion, with conviction. That conviction, people hear it, and they want to be a part of not just a woman, a man with a message, but a man on a mission, or a woman on a mission to transform lives. That's what they want to get behind. So when you follow these 5 keys, these are the keys that I learned that started to grow our health education business. It started to really sell from stage, that really started to make changes. You don't need a large audience to allow these 5 keys to unlock a large impact and opportunities for your life. So if you want to dive deeper, if you want to go more into any of these topics, what I do is every month I have highincomehealthexpert.com. I get together on Zoom, and you could ask questions, you could dig deep, you could understand more about how you can participate, and we could talk about your business, get your questions answered. You could fellowship with other people who are also monetizing their knowledge and getting a message out, learn from each other. And we do that each month. It's free to attend. You can invite your friend. We do it the first Thursday of every month. So this one, it's actually coming up soon. I would encourage you to join, get your questions answered, and just get the encouragement through the process. It's $49 for a VIP ticket for a backstage pass. It's well worth it. I mean, we have a 10 times money back guarantee that if you show up with your camera on and you show up each day of the challenge and you don't find that you get 10 times more value than what you paid for, we will gladly reimburse your money, because I don't want your money if I can't help you. But for $49, the opportunities and transformation is massive. So go to highincomehealthexpert.com, and I'd love to see you there. And until next time, remember to subscribe as we release new videos every Tuesday. And I look forward to seeing you. And God doesn't call it qualified, He qualifies it called. Have a great day.